Now, on the sidelines of the World Bank IMF annual meetings in Washington, D.C., Afreximbank hosted the 2024 Babacar Ndiaye Lecture. The lecture was delivered by Nigeria's immediate past Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Let's have a look.
Dr. Ndiaye was an extraordinary visionary. The man who did not only see tomorrow, but pointed the way for those after him to get there. He firmly believed that it was Africans and African institutions that held the key to a sustainable transformation of the continent. It was this conviction that led him to conceive and lead the creation of several Pan-African institutions endowed with unique features that gave them a fighting chance against the virus of dependency and the strategy of divide and conquer that had kept Africa and Africans down for decades. He also championed the creation of Afreximbank and ensured that it was infused with a full dose of those unique features in terms of its purpose, ownership, and governance. Any progress and advancements Afreximbank can lay claim to today is owed largely to Dr. Ndiaye's great institutional architecture that fosters the culture of self-reliance on the bank and its employees.
I really feel a bit sorry for you all this evening because here you are all ready for dinner and I'll be speaking for at least 3 hours. But fortunately also for you, President Orama has already made most of my speech, so I don't think I'll be speaking for anywhere near that long anymore. But let me say how deeply grateful I am to the President of Afreximbank and his team for affording me the honor to memorialize Babacar Ndiaye, a far-sighted visionary who, before 1993, when the bank was founded, saw today, the day when Afrexim would be a leading global force for development finance in Africa. And the exploits of this very committed Pan-Africanist who used to say, and I quote, "Senegal is my village, Africa is my country," are rightly the stuff of legend today. His place in this generation, as we've heard already, as the foremost contributor to the ideation and execution of development, finance, policy, and practice in Africa is firmly secure. May his memory always be blessed. I'm speaking on the topic saving lives today versus saving the planet for the future. Can the AFCFTA, the free trade agreements, resolve the climate change dilemma? The topic, of course, deliberately creates a false choice, since we really cannot choose to live today as a bargain for dying tomorrow. The topic, I think, is meant to provoke our response to the crucial point that Africa faces two existential crises, not one: climate change and poverty. And then, of course, to answer the question, by what means can the free trade agreement resolve the dilemma of African nations who desperately need growth, jobs, livelihoods, and food security, without at the same time worsening the climate crisis? Regarding the climate crisis, we all know, of course, that Africa is warming faster than any other region, and practically everywhere in Africa, the catastrophic consequences are evident.
It is a pleasure to join this group of leaders from states, local governments, businesses, and universities. Your gathering comes at a critical moment of truth in our fight against the climate crisis. The window of opportunity to keep the 1.5-degree limit within reach and prevent the worst impacts of climate change is almost closed. At the current levels of warming, we are already witnessing unprecedented climate in cities, countries, and continents across our planet, including across Africa. This year, we've seen drought disasters declared across southern Africa and extreme rains and flooding in East and West Africa. Meanwhile, many African countries are mired in debt, exacerbated by extended crises, with little access to long-term concessional financing to invest in sustainable development. The current debt framework is inadequate for effective debt relief that allows fiscal space needed to respond to the basic needs of their population and protect them from the ravages of a climate crisis they did nothing to create. We must support Africa to unlock its huge potential and ambition to become a renewable energy superpower.
I think first, of course, is to memorialize Babacar Ndiaye, who, as you know, was perhaps the primary moving force behind the establishment of Afreximbank and several other, multilateral type institutions, Shelter Afrique, etc. So I think that celebrating a person of that caliber, especially many years after his passing, is important, not only because it emphasizes that we recognize service, we recognize, especially service on a continental scale, but also the significance of what the institutions he set up are achieving today. I think that's also important. Afreximbank, of course, is critical in practically all of the innovative type of investments that we're seeing in, for example, today's business, which is climate, I think that's really quite significant. Well, I think the most important thought for me is really the fact that we have a great opportunity, that Africa has a great opportunity. The climate crisis presents a perfect opportunity for Africa's prosperity. If we choose to go the way of climate positive growth, that has already been endorsed anyway by the African Union. And so there's tremendous opportunity now to let the world understand that this is the most climate competitive space that there is, which is Africa. We have the renewable energy. We have the young men and women who are entrepreneurial. We have the critical minerals. And so we're all set to lead the world. The truth of the matter is that whether the world likes it or not, they're faced now with that unique situation where you find that Africa is either the solution or the nemesis of the world. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity.
Babacar Ndiaye Lecture series, it's something that the Afreximbank started 8 years ago, and the objective was to ensure that topical issues that affect the African continent are discussed, are deliberated on, and so that solutions to Africans' challenges, how to navigate various global African issues, how to exploit opportunities are discussed, so we can develop strategies towards African growth and development. So every year we come up with a theme, whatever theme we think is topical. We invite various different keynote speakers to talk to us. We ask them their various opinions on the topic, and then we all learn together and invite people as Africans. So it's something that is very important. It's a way to bring us together as Africans to try and solve the challenges of the African continent.
Africa can have green growth that helps the world to achieve its climate goals. But we cannot have a green growth that bypasses completely the reality of the fact that our continent, people are still looking for livelihoods. So we must move from fossil fuels to things like natural gas. But we cannot jump from fossil fuels to nothing. So how do we, manage that balance? And it will not contribute much to emissions, global carbon emissions.